introduction, Pedro Almodovar.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, 2019.
You can take off your mask. I mean, if you want to.
Prefer not. But it's easy. So, 2019, you make a film about how your concerns about your health might get in the way of you being a filmmaker. Then there's a worldwide pandemic. And then you make 2 more movies.
Yes, that was exactly. During the lockdown in Madrid, we were like 3 months, I think, without leaving the place where we were. So, I have the habit to be alone at home. So it was not new for me, the loneliness at home. But I took the advantage of now having a social life. So I concentrate myself in writing. So I took this script that I started before, and I didn't like the result. I didn't like part of it. So, with a new point of view and being completely concentrated in the writing, then, I finished the script of Parallel Mothers in these 3 months. But, the pandemic, you say pandemic or pandemic?
Pandemic.
Pandemic found me when I was rehearsing with Tilda Swinton my very free adaptation of The Human Voice. So we have to stop it. Tilda went to Scotia. Immediately when we finished the lockdown, that was July, then we start again with the rehearsing and we shoot The Human Voice, and after we were selected by Venice, we went to Venice Film Festival, being very successful, thanks of Tilda, basically. And immediately after, I start with the pre-production of this movie. So, all this year and a half, full of tragedy and pain, my way of, I don't know how to say, huir hacia adelante.
To move forward.
That was just to write and make movies, and I'm very happy that I could do it. So that's why I am here with this incredible audience.
Yeah.
My colleague Carlos Aguilar pointed out that in Abrazos Rotos, there's a poster on the wall for a movie called Parallel Mothers. And I'm just wondering, is it just a title you've had knocking around, or was there a whole story behind it even back then?
No, at that moment I have the first draft, and there is still the mass graves theme subject, and also the relation between the 2 mothers, one in the 40s and the other one very young. But there were a part related with the character of Anna it was a kind of Manichaeist part that I didn't like, because I put her in a family of the Opus Dei. And everything that happened to her, it was awful. That was why she ran away from that family and tried to look for Yanis. But that part, I don't know. I hope that there are not many Opus Dei people here. I hate the Opus Dei, but it was not good that if you hate something, you put it on the script. So so that exists already in the Broken Embraces. When I took again the script, then it was very clear for me what was the sequences that I have to rewrite. And because first of all, when I'm writing all the time, so taking ideas, taking notes, and I have always several different scripts in different levels of development. But it's good not to feel satisfied since the beginning. This one, I think it is good for a writer to have this kind of autocritical self-criticism. But in the pandemic, you know, I rewrote the script and I loved the result. But it is true that that little poster that it was in Broken Embraces, it was because there still was this draft.
Is that like a post-it for you to sort of make yourself finish the script? Like, well, I've alluded to it, now I have to go and make it?
¿Cómo? Not exactly, but you know, in my movies there are some directors. For example, in Bad Education, there is also close to one of the entrance door. It was a poster of how would we call it? Of an old lady that after it became Volver. Oh yes, I remember now the title. The title was La Abuela Fantasma. And the poster, it was an old lady. And at that moment, I written not the whole script, but it was a kind of announcing that it was a subject that I was thinking about. At the moment, it was La Abuela, the ghost.
The grandmother.
Yes, but became Volver.
I want
So I like to put different things in my movies. It's like kind of a plain thing for me. For example, in the skin I live in, there is a moment when Marisa Paredes bring one tray with books and some clothes, and one of the books it was Runaway from Alice Munro. So, for me, it was a way also of telling that I was working in Julieta at the moment.
So we had to look for the clues, I gotcha.
Yeah.
I want to touch on real quick the idea of not being satisfied. Are you one of those filmmakers that, if you could, you would go back and fix things in your old movies, or once they're done, they're done?
No, I think it's much more saludable that when you finish one movie, this is the movie you've done. It doesn't matter the circumstances what they were, you had the problems that you had, but it is very important for your mental health to recognize the movie as it is, with the good things, with the bad things, and to recognize it as the result of your work. Because if not, you become obsessed with that, you never finish one movie.
Right.
Because always could be more perfect.
Sure.
But no, I don't want to. And now it's very easy to make a new edition of them. But I respect them like they were since the beginning.
Good. So you talked about how the younger mothers in the original draft, had the Opus Dei family, and because of your strong feelings about Opus, it didn't work out. So I guess then we can assume that you have more empathy for this woman who is so devoted to her career and to the theater that maybe that takes away from her ability to be a mother herself.
This is. I don't want to say a bad mother, but for me it was very interesting when I was writing to write about a mother that doesn't have any maternal instinct. I met some of them, and it is very hard for them to have that feeling. You could think that is a problem of being very selfish. But I like to think that these women really, felt that deep vocation to become an actress, and of course, I don't try to judge her. And actually, I'm very glad of the result of the movie. The actress is wonderful, but also, the character, because I never approach a mother like that. But when someone in Spain, when someone tell you, I am apolitical, or apolitical,
Right.
you know, that means you are conservative and from the right wing.
Right.
It's like, I mean, you think it's
You are comfortable with the status quo.
yeah. So, I mean, I wanted just to put together, I mean, these like two different Spains. I mean, one which is the Republican, very liberated, very modern, that represents Yanis, but also the other Spain, the right-wing Spain, represented by this actress that by casual is playing Lorca, which is, you know, the main missing guy, I mean, missing poet in our history.
Yes.
But also, I wanted to put the two situations of when they are in the kitchen and Ana says, because she's a little jealous of the guy, of Arturo, que abrir las fosas es un modo de abrir viejas heridas.
That to open the graves is a way of opening old wounds.
You know, este es el argumento que tiene la derecha española para no haber abierto todavía las fosas que existen en España.
And that is in fact the argument that Spain's right wing uses to not open the graves that are still unopened in Spain.
Naturalmente eso significa, la chica no es culpable de nada, que ella ha recibido esa educación y ha oído eso.
And of course what that means, it's not her fault. This is the education she's received, this is the thing she's heard at home.
Pero para mí es una escena clave porque entonces Yanis reacciona muy irritada hablándole de la verdad histórica, del país donde vive, de la historia de ese país.
And so this is a really important scene for me because this is where Janice then reacts and very adamantly says, you know, you need to understand the history in which you live, the country in which you live.
Y Yanis no soporta hablar de la verdad histórica, siendo consciente de que dentro de ella esconde una gran mentira. No es culpable de esa mentira, pero esa mentira es lo que ella ha adoptado desde que se entera del cambio de las niñas. Y esa sensación de culpabilidad le resulta insoportable y decide contarle la verdad a la otra mujer.
And so at that moment, Janice, as she hears herself talk about historical truth, realizes and feels very uncomfortable with the fact that she's not telling Ana the truth. And so it's at that very moment where she recognizes that she's living a contradiction that she decides to tell Ana.
Y este también es un poco el corazón de la película, el dilema moral de la protagonista.
And that's really at the heart of the film, is the moral dilemma that the protagonist is living.
Y que a través de ella voy a hablar de una realidad que, aunque hace 85 años que ocurrió en España, todavía no está resuelta.
And it's through this character then that I'm able to approach a history that even though it happened 85 years ago, it has not yet been resolved.
This script almost feels like a magic trick in that you set up with these characters and the title, and we go in thinking that we know what this is going to be, and we have an idea of what kind of story you want to tell. Mm-hmm. But always in the background is the unmarked graves and the discoveries, and by the end, the big emotional wallop of the ending is not so much about the two women. It's about this grander history of Spain, of these wounds that do still exist, and the whole story. You kind of realize that births and deaths are all the historical record, and they're all everything that happens to us. And I think it's such a delicate balance to pull that off in a story. And I'm wondering, is there one part of it that came to you first, or did you always know I want to pair these things together with this effect?
No, since the beginning I wanted to put this subject together, but what I experimented during the writing, it was changing because in the middle of the script I put some information about the mass graves, and the effect was I think it was not good for the whole story. Because since the moment that you put something related with the mass graves, everything changed and the rest around disappeared. So then I decided, of course, to talk about them, but to leave it at the beginning, like a prologue,
Prologue.
Yes. And at the end, like an epilogue. And also even at the end, I changed the narrative. I try to be as close as possible to reality. Really, I did it like a documentary at the last, because I felt a kind of huge respect about these bodies and about the families that they cannot go to a cemetery to pray for their fathers or grandfathers, and they cannot bring flowers, because this is the only thing that the families of the victims are asking. Right. Is just to have a place where their relatives that they were victims for the freedom of Spain, because they were fighting in the Republican side. Just to have a place, just to pray and to live, to give them flowers. This is something that also the far right and the right doesn't want to understand. That is not a question of political issue. It's just something humanistic. Yeah. It's as simple as that. But anyway, my country, it was always divided. Of course, now we are living in a democracy. That changed completely everything. But for the first time and I think this is a Trump influence, awful influence in the whole world, that in the last 4 years appears something new for us, which is a party of far right. And France already have it with Le Pen, but I think en nuestro caso nadie pensaba que iba a haber un partido de ultraderecha porque teníamos muy presentes los recuerdos de la guerra.
In our case, we never thought that there would be such a far right-wing party because we had such a recent history where we had lived through the war.
Pero yo creo que la influencia de Trump ha despertado a todos los locos del planeta y han dicho, si este hombre es capaz de decir estas cosas, ¿por qué no lo voy a hacer yo?
And so I really do think that one of the worldwide effects that Trump has had is that he has woken up all the crazies around the world who feel like, if this guy can do it and say it, why can't we?
No, es que ha dado una especie de modo de empleo de la brutalidad y el fascismo.
Yeah, in a way he sort of employed brutality and fascism.
It is everywhere, I think, unfortunately now.
Well, and when you talk about the historical record, it's more than 40 years since Franco died. So I think for a lot of younger Spaniards, they have no memory of what it was like, during his life. So,
I don't think now the very young people, the people that were born in this century, I think they have their own problems. They have a lot of problems finding a job, finding her or their own identity. There is a big also, which is nice, that the young people are, for the first time, at least that I remember, that they are thinking about their gender identity. Of course, they are. And there is the problem of the change of climate, but they don't think about our civil war because it is very far from their lives. So it's good for them to know this, because this is the country where they are living, and also because there is also in Spain a big problem, problema territorial de las autonomías.
So there's also sort of a problem with the sort of territorial autonomy around the country.
Y por ejemplo, este problema viene justamente de la transición del franquismo a la democracia.
And it's a problem that dates back precisely to that transition between Francoism and democracy.
Entonces los jóvenes también descubrirían que en esa transición había algunas cosas que se hicieron muy bien, otras no tanto, y que parte de los problemas que tienen ahora vienen de esa época, hace 40 años.
And young people would then come to find out, right, that during that transition, there were some things that were done very well, but others not so well, and some of the problems that they're facing today actually date back to this transition.
But anyway, in any case, it's good that they know that there are many people, perhaps some of them, curiously, they are the generation of the great grandsons, the generation that they are asking to open the mass graves. So, because, the rest, the other generation, In Spain, there were a big silence, not only during the Francoist period, but also after.
Yeah.
Because they were, the Spanish, the families were traumatized, and that silence became like pathological silence. En el 2014 fueron los relatores de la ONU para ver sobre el terreno los crímenes franquistas.
So in 2014, there were some UN rapporteurs that came to Spain to sort of investigate these Francoist crimes.
Y a ellos le llamó mucho la atención que eran la generación de los nietos y bisnietos los que estaban pidiendo la exhumación de los cadáveres.
And they were even somewhat astonished that it was the generation of the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren who were actually asking for the exhumation of the graves.
Y es porque es la última generación que queda y que ya no tiene miedo y que yo espero que lo consigan.
And that's because that's a generation that now lives without the fear, and I hope that they are able to accomplish this.
So this is such a still obviously touchy and controversial subject in Spain. Have people in Spain been able to take this film as a film and as a drama, or is all the discussion around it been about, the notion of the graves and where you fall on the issue?
I would like really to know, about the reaction in Spain. They got good reviews, but I got the feeling that for the right wing, it's a very antipathic movie, because they don't want to talk and they don't want to think about this reality. And I'm waiting now. The movie will release in France, and the reviews were much better in France and in Italy than in Spain. And in Italy, actually, the movie released much better than in Spain. Which I don't know. I don't want to feel like there are ghosts. But it is weird that because Italy is a market less important for me than Spain. But what I can say is that they were not any kind of protest. They prefer to be silent, which is better. There is no fight. But Spain is, as I told you at the beginning, a divided country. So the right wing doesn't want to look at this reality, not at all.
Listen, one last question we have to wrap up, but I have to ask real quick about the casting, because you have a couple of your muses here, Penelope Cruz and Rosy de Palma. It's your first time working with Aitana Sanchez Gijon, which kind of surprised me. And then you found this amazing young actress who's playing Ana. Just real quick, what was the casting process like in terms of who did you go in knowing who you wanted and who did you discover along the way?
Well, I'll try to be quick, but that's impossible.
Okay.
With Penelope, obviously, since the beginning, when I started writing the script, I thought about her. Even Penelope is a mother very far from the mother that she performed in the movie. We are friends from more than 20 years, and also, Penelope has a blind faith in me. I think she made me better director than I am, and also she's very generous at the moment of rehearsing, because I knew that she needed a lot of rehearsing to make this character. Above all, the part of being guilt and shame. This is something that she doesn't have in a natural way, so she had to rehearse that feelings. And Aitana is very, on the left side of the society, but she has this kind of style of lady with a class that I thought that even ideologically she is in the opposite, but she could be, like a conservative mother, and with this kind of class. And I'm very happy with her, because she in the last 15 years she didn't make a movie. She became like a queen of theater. She made everything in theater, and so she was very well trained to make this. And now I'm very happy with the result of that. The other thing, I mean, that Milena Smith, it was a kind of miracle when that thing happened, that you are looking for someone young, which means without experience, but giving her a deep and complicated character. So fortunately, I found her. I mean, she made an audition, and it was great in the audition. And also, when we start shooting, I mean, in the audition, she came dressed in black, like with no, como sin silueta, sin forma.
Yeah, without a silhouette or a form.
But I pay attention to, I mean, from here to here, because, you know, in these few centimeters, there is the key of the photogenia. And the eyes, the nose, and the lip were very, very, very expressive and photogenic. And when we start shooting, it was, I mean, it's so moving for one director when you see that someone is growing and appears as really a big actress. Then you discover that the camera loves her, and every little detail she made, the camera recorded. And this is always something that I received like a kind of miracle. I was very lucky with the three of them.
And Rossi De Palma is, you know.
And Rossi always
Minnesota.
good. Rossi is always good. I mean, it's always, I mean, a kind of aire fresco, fresh air. And also Julieta Serrano.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you know, when I can, and they are very generous to me, so I try also to take more working with them, because also I meet them. We also are friends from a long time, and to have Rossi is always a privilege.
Well, enhorabuena, you've done it again. This is another incredible film for you.
Thank you so much. Gracias.
Thank you.